folks, this is the AO Automotive Reviews. And what we have here today is the Chevrolet Corvette Z51 versus the Porsche 718 Cayman GT4. Now Chevrolet and Porsche square up yet again, but this time it's the Corvette versus the Cayman in a battle of the mid-engine masterpieces. Now, this is from the 2020 issue of Car and Driver. Now, for a lot of you who have yelled or addressed the editors of the magazine because they haven't compared the Corvette to the 911, well, they heard you, but it's however they choosing to ignore you. The truth is, the Corvette closest competitor from Porsche lineup hasn't been a 911 for some time. The German brand made its rear engine flagship just a bit too soft, right? As Chevrolet got downright serious about making big performance gains by rotating the Chevrolet V8, the mid-engine 718 series of two-seaters, has taken the throne at Porsche as a de facto sports car line, while the 911 has realized the 928 goal of being the ultimate sports tourer. Every few years, Porsche turns the knob here and there to create a sharper 911 or a smoother Cayman. But the pointy end of performance hasn't always been the GT cars, and the Cayman GT4 is the first 718 that Porsche clearly gave more bite than a 911. There are other reasons for this matchup too. Both the V8 in the Corvette and the flat six in the Cayman GT4 are naturally aspirated. Both cars locate their engines behind their cabins and within the wheelbases, and each has a stock chassis that gives track day junkies no need for modification. This is the new sports car rivalry, a battle for mid-engine supremacy and a stretch goal price range. Bone stock brilliance from Chevrolet starts at $66,890. That will get you the base Corvette Stingray with the $5,000 Z51 performance package. 5 horse bumps for $495. Upgraded brakes and suspension, electronically controlled limited slip diff, among other things, plus the $1,895 magnetotic helical dampers. The remaining $19,820 worth of options on our test car is for the most part window dressing. The biggest chunk of that goes to the $11,950 3LT package, which wraps the VAT interior in leather and microsuede, red seat belts, brake calipers, a roof panel with exposed carbon fiber, an engine appearance package, competition sports seats, and a carbon fiber interior trim, which accounts for the rest. And this is what you get. The Corvette is just drop dead gorgeous going up against the Cayman GT4. What a sight to see. Sight to see on every angle, folks. The Cayman GT4 starts at $100,550 and the Guard's red example sticker for $105 and $230. Heated seats, automatic climate control, Apple CarPlay integration, auto dimming mirrors make up just over half of the option cost. The other $2320, that's a navigation system. That makes the 414 horsepower GT4 about as close as no option car as it gets to the Porsche universe. A loaded Corvette and a stripped down GT4 cost nearly $20,000 more. Set up the classic conundrum of Pricer import versus high value Americans, though? After spending some time with both, we can empathetically tell you there is no loser here. A day of road driving and a day of thrilling 1.9 mile Graton Raceway, and either of these vehicles is the stuff of dreams. Sure, we rank the cars, but try to think of the results more as a first and second winner. Second place, the 2020 Chevrolet Corvette Stingray. The highest that has laid down brag-worthy numbers, draws every eye, and has amazing value. The lows, it feels cold next to the competition. Claustrophobic cabin, where's the V8 war? So there's no noise. The verdict is, it's the best vet ever, just isn't good enough to beat this Cayman. If you have any doubt as to the mid-engine Corvette appeal, take this nugget to the bank. When an acquaintance asked us what we thought of the C8, we told him to jump in a Robinson R44, a four-seater helicopter, and meet us at the Jitron, or the Graton, to find out for yourself. We offer this invitation, half on the lark, because we knew we had the chopper. But his response, "You sure I can land on the property?" followed by appearance on the test day, only reinforced what we already know. Everyone loves a new Corvette. Including us, this is the 10 best car. The Corvette is quicker than the GT4 around the track, especially the Graton. And in a straight line, 3 seconds flat to 60 miles per hour, 11.3 seconds in a quarter mile, it pulls 1.3 Gs on the skid pad and stops from 70 miles per hour and 154 feet. This car is definitely not the second winner because of numbers. It earns silver because of how it feels when making those numbers. The mid-engine Corvette has a tendency to understeer at the limit of grip. You can overcome that tendency with some very deliberate driving. With a 9.4-inch longer wheelbase and a 5.2-inch wider body than the GT4, the Corvette drive huge in comparison. That feeling is further exaggerated by the Stingray 3,638-pound curb weight, which is 424 pounds more, or 427 pounds more than the Cayman. On paper, the Corvette cabin is 2 cubes bigger than the GT4, yet it's the Porsche that feels eerier, likely due to low build line and a narrow center console. The Corvette impressive performance, you'll notice a lot of highlighting on this side of the results chart. It helped the Chevy run 1/10 of a second quicker around Graton, but the car also felt antiseptic on the track. It's as if the Corvette sold the soul for performance. There's a sort of unresolved Goldilocks thing going on with the steering. We can't find a driving mode we like, as tour is too light, track is too heavy, and yet sport is not just right. Plus there's so little feedback that the noise from the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires is more informative than the steering wheel feel. And while the Cayman lapped Graton without issue in 90 plus degrees heat, the Corvette, otherwise obedient 8-speed dual clutch transmission, suffered from a few bobble shifts during the hottest part of the day. But boy oh boy does that Corvette looks good. It is sharp as all get out. I love those lines. We also couldn't ignore the VAT build quality issue. Although we should note that this example was an early production unit, neither the front nor rear bumper on our test cars align very well with the body, and the panel gaps around the front lid are uneven. Don't let this criticism fool you. The Corvette is great. It's easy to drive and very quick, and it can transport 2 sets of golf clubs in the trunk and then beat everyone home for the 19th green. Why it is the second winner comes down to feelings. The Vet generates a lot of good ones, but the other car here generates even more. And that Corvette cockpit looks nice, but car and driver says it's quite crimped. This is cool how you see the reflection of the engine in the window. This is sharp, one sharp car. Interior is definitely nice, folks. The badges, the seatings, the threading, everything about it is just sharp. Definitely sharp, folks, in every way. The interior, the cockpit, everything about it is just sharp. Makes me wish I had like $80,000. I already had a lot of money where you can pay the payments for a new Corvette. Look at that interior. It's just sharp. Stereos, the sound system, everything about it, just a beauty. This is sharp, folks. The lighting, everything is just American. Pilot Sports Cup 2s. Definitely sharp. The Stingray symbol. The lines, the spoiler. And then we have here the Porsche. First place for the 2020 Porsche 718 Cayman GT4. All the feels, the flat 6 soundtrack at 8100 RPM, surprisingly comfortable. Nearly 20 grand is a big difference. Is there a GT4 touring without the wing? The verdict, a near perfect automobile. Now going into this test, the pre-game bench racing suggested that the GT4 didn't have a shot. We driven both cars before, and as we mentally filled our ballots, we realized that 718 would need a clean sweep of the subjective categories to win. And there was no way the Cayman could compete with a Corvette luxury car ride. At least that's what they thought. The car and driver, that is. But the GT4 rides better than we remembered, and the Corvette rides worse, likely due to the suspension being set up for trek duty. Plus, this Vet competition sport seats have firmer cushions than the GT2 seats. And the C8 we drove, and this Cayman standard sport seats are softer than the carbon fiber buckets in the last GT4 we tested. Those differences effectively narrow the ride comfort gap to nothing. So the GT4 Flat 6 elevates the Cayman to a higher plane. This comparison test wins against the Corvette is more evidence that the 718 has taken up the 911 mantle. Now, barring suspicion bits from the previous generation 911 GT3 has its pluses and its minuses. Links surely contribute to the 77 decibel cruise. 4 decibel louder than a Corvette is at 70 miles per hour. It's a trade-off that you would make most days, because those precision bearings bolsters the work that the Michelin Pilot Sports Cup 2 tires do to haul a car down from 70 miles per hour and 149 feet and claw around a skid pad at 1.8 G. This is sharp, folks. With beautiful angles. Those ball joints are also a boon to the chassis feedback. The Cayman Alcantara wrap steering wheel, which has no buttons and is comfortably round, provides the driver with terabytes of information while leaking turns with surgical precision. This just looks beautiful, boy. It is sharp. That steering wheel that we were talking about, there it is. It makes for a stark contrast with the Corvette squared off button Latin and relatively uncommunicative helm. There is a fundamental difference in the balance of these cars. Both hold their own on the road track and on the back road, but when you get the limit on the racetrack, the Porsche is more neutral. This is very evident on the greasy gratin tarmac. The Corvette pushes in place where the Cayman tails wags with a fair warning. Anyone who tells you they prefer driving automatic hasn't felt the magical 6-speed of the GT4 at 8,100 RPMs. Red line. The shifter show throws tuck into the gear with just the right snap. The 4.0 liter flat 6 doesn't make quite the same shriek as the 4.0 and the 911 GT3, but it's close enough to make you forget that the engine is a little dull at low revs. It also considerably louder than the Corvette V8, which GM toned down a lot for the C8. And we guess there's a radio in here, said the technical editor David Beard about the Porsche. I can get lost in the thing pretty easily. The GT4 also gets lost in the crowd, which we think can be a good thing after spending the weekend explaining to gawkers that the C8 isn't a Ferrari. And the Porsche just looks all about its business. The GT4. And its seats, they said, is a lot more comfortable than the Corvette C8 sport seats. Now, Car and Driver drove a lot of cars, and there isn't one in the recent memory that is as good as the corners at this Cayman. And it's comfortable enough to drive daily. A GT4 without the boy racer wing would be even better. Beating the cheaper, quicker, more powerful Corvette is a feather in the cap, and we suspect it's going to collect a lot more. There is little doubt in our minds that the dollar for dollar, this is the best car of 2020, but is also one of the best and purest sports cars Porsche has ever made. So this is amazing now. And the Porsche is definitely nice and a lot more basic than the Corvette as far as the interior is. And that stick shift, boy, that's just sharp. It's definitely a different feel. Now, as far as the track, so we are about at the end. This is a spoiler on the back. Now, as far as the track, they say the Gratin is a tight 1.9 mile course that rewards patience. Now, on the day that it was lapping, it was well over 90 degrees, and the track was very greasy. Given that these aren't the fastest laps on the record, but they're comparable. Now, the dead heat, the Chevrolet Corvette did it in 1 minute and 26.4 seconds. And the Porsche did it in 1 minute and 26.5 seconds. The Corvette was out ahead. Now, the GT4 peaked on the straight at 138.7 miles per hour. The C8 at 138.6. I actually think that the GT4 should have went against the Z06 because about the same price. But the Z06 is not out yet. And I think that Z06 will give the Porsche the business. And of course it would be a hard race. And I think that Z06 may have a better sound. And all that as well. And I think that's the one that's supposed to be competing against this Porsche. But to compete against the Stingray, which is basically $20,000 cheaper, not so much. So, car and driver, I really don't agree with the card. I really think that you should have waited for the Z06. And then it would have been a fair race. Now, car and driver pushed the braking point a few feet farther. And the car's nearly out of control, backing off a few feet on the next lap. Feel like they had to slow down way too soon. And they got it right in the vat in the fast lap, giving the Chevy an early lead. And this off-road downhill and the blind left, the GT4 and more neutral balance helped it turn a little better and get up the hill quicker, making up what was lost in the braking zone on the front straight. Lateral acceleration is about the same for both cars at 1.06 G, and I think the GT4 was actually 1.08. So after the jump, the right-left tight, left-long right combination is essentially a wash. The GT4 carries a little more speed at the apexes, but that's countered by the vat thrust. And the GT4 is caught between gears before the Corazzo turn at 8. Second gear is needed, but it's nicer to stay in the third to prevent another downshift. The GT4 just barely wins the sprint to the slower corner with 104 miles per hour peak, and the C8 did at 103 miles per hour. The weight through this roughly 35 mile per hour turn is torturous. Now the car feels in its element going this slow. And the GT4 just soaks up the reverse corkscrew. A right-left climb with a big dip at the apex of the initial turn, much better than the C8. Then it's a dead even drag race down the straight. And you can imagine that sound that they were making. Now, they suspected that the Corvette would be a fractional lead to the finish line and would widen at cooler temperatures, as its more street-friendly Michelin Pilot Sports 4S rubber felt more compromised by the heat than the Cayman Pilot Sports Cup 2s. Now, they'll have to wait for a lightning lap to see what's going on. So, but this has been an awesome experience with the Corvette and the Porsche GT4. What a beast. These were both beautiful cars, folks. The Porsche 718 Cayman GT4 and the Corvette Z51. What an awesome match. You guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys sharing, thumbs up, and liking, of course, liking this video. You guys are awesome. Stay refreshed, stay strong, and stay in shape. Much love. Eat right, eat healthy. Much love. Take care.
If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more interesting videos.